Hello everybody, my name is Ratnos, and welcome to This Week in Mythic Plus. This week's affixes are Fortified, Grievous, Spiteful, and of course Prideful. This is a Fortified week, which means it's a week that teams will be doing more of those high keys, but this combination of affixes is actually potentially pretty rough, the ones that accompany Fortified, depending on really how geared and what spec is your healer playing, how easily can they handle Grievous, and how much is Spiteful going to throw a wrench in your plans? And the answer to that is going to depend on how many melee do you have in your group and how much stuff like Ursula's Vortex, Ring of Peace, do you have to really make Spiteful go away on demand. So depending on how your group stacks up on those categories, this week could feel pretty good, or it could be one of those trickier weeks where you're a little bit less happy about how everything's going. If that is the case, the good news is that the next two Fortified weeks are generally regarded as a lot better, so you got those to look forward to. In addition to that, we also have some hot fixes here, which is, so first of all, you can't sneak a health stone into a dungeon anymore. They already tried to fix this, but they fixed a workaround that we'll see if it's fixed all the workarounds for it. But the main hot fix that's coming into this week is that they've fixed several of the Invis pot breaking things. It's unclear whether they fixed all of them. They've listed out some specific things that broke Invis pot effects that they've fixed. But my experience was that Invis pots were breaking even when you didn't have necessarily a Frost Decay, a Druid, a Mistweaver, or a Necrolord in the group. So I'm not sure they've got all of them. Basically, the way you should proceed this week is if you have an Invis pot skip, always assume it's going to break. Always be ready to turn it into either a battle res or recover it by making everybody by being ready to start fighting and have it turn into a pull, or Soulstone if you got a Warlock. That on the healer is a good idea, or potentially just staggering your Invis pots such that two people go at slightly different times, and that way if one of them breaks out and gets in combat, not the other person should at least be able to get through safely, and maybe doesn't get broken out by targeted or AoE effects that are nearby when the other person's Invis pot broke. So basically, yeah, just it's like defensive driving, right? Just kind of assume that the Invis pot is out to get you and be ready for it to do some weird stuff. But hopefully they fixed all of them. We'll see. We'll see over this week. It's the kind of thing where if an Invis pot breaks for me like 1 time out of 10, I'm paranoid about it now for the next 100 times that I use it. And it's broken much more than 1 time out of 10 last week. So we'll see how they've done here. All right, so let's go dungeon by dungeon, as is the plan now. The basic idea this week is a week where you can pull rather big, but you do have to be, it's Fortified Grievous, right? So that's most of what's going to constrain your pull sizing here. Spiteful is something where it can be a problem, but generally you're not going to be adjusting your pull sizing for something like Spiteful. Usually the counterplay for it is going to be trying to kill stuff around the same time, or using your crowd control abilities on the Spiteful Shades as needed, or choosing a ranged DPS character at the character creation screen. So the other side, our first dungeon up this week. This is not a dungeon where you're going to run into too many Spiteful problems. There are a couple bosses that do get pretty difficult. The Grievous Fortified combination, I think, catches a lot of people off guard, where you're kind of expecting the bosses to be easier because it's Fortified week, but there's actually quite a few bosses that I would describe as pretty high damage. The Mana Storm is one that I think it catches a lot of people off guard by just how much kind of group-wide damage is coming out, and so if you fall behind on the Grievous here, that's a real problem. My routes don't really set up a natural lust on it unless you're going at exactly like the timer speed in this dungeon, so be aware that maybe consider... the thing is you kind of got to still... Lust Hakar, that's not really negotiable. So it kind of scuffs the ability to then lust on the Mana Storms. Maybe there's some way that you could do some weird stuff to make a lust happen on Mana Storms. Realistically, you're probably just going to have to deal with it, having only the Pride buff going into it, which should be enough, but just don't get complacent and do your absolute best to avoid the avoidable damage on that fight, because the unavoidable damage with Grievous is quite substantial. And Dealer Zyxa, another fight that's like that. This is one you should certainly lust. I've seen a lot of people save the lust from Muezala. Would not recommend this. I would use the lust and the pride buff on Dealer Zyxa rather than on Muezala. This is a boss, particularly on Grievous, where I feel like that's definitely warranted. And Moizala, like, you don't really need the Lust on pull. You don't really need it when you get to the last platform because you get a big haste steroid there, and so there's diminishing returns. The best time to use it if you do have it and want to use it on Moizala, I would say, is right before everybody goes to their platforms, if you're at a key level where that might push somebody over the edge of being able to solo kill their image. All right, Halls of Atonement. This is a dungeon where, okay, so depending again on how you're going to do it, my skips route has this nice and long invis pot skip here, or technically a shroud skip, although it's a little tight. This one is one that you, again, may want to be careful of. You may want to consider using the no skips route if you are normally a skips gamer and you're terrified of the invis pot thing happening to you. That's not the end of the world if it does, as long as you can get through and get a res off. But then one problem with this skip as well is your graveyard never updates in this dungeon, so if you then wipe later, wipe recovery becomes a real problem where you're releasing right to the front of the dungeon, and even if you wipe on like this pull or whatever, this boss, you're releasing all the way back at the front of the dungeon. So that is something to consider. It's a word of caution, but I do think this path is faster. If you can do it, I love getting 80% onto the first boss. That's my favorite way to do this dungeon. I think that gives you a lot of speed. It avoids pulling some nasty stuff here. Doesn't get you prides onto the first two bosses. You can reorganize things to make that happen, but this is the way that I would attack this dungeon, particularly this week. Mist, nothing too much to talk about here. One thing that you'll of course find really annoying is the Spiteful locking you out of getting through your next maze mist wall. There's really just no getting around the fact that Spiteful is going to do that to you in the maze, so it's a dungeon where you kind of get taxed an extra minute in this dungeon because of stupid Spiteful keeping you in combat and not letting you through the maze, unless they fix that, in which case that would be great. Also, okay, so depending on what path you're using, the more you can skip at the start of the dungeon, the more you might be interested in tagging these right mobs and bringing them into this green pool here. It's actually still doable, but it got a lot harder with this patch. They closed the window here, but if you can get levitate and then fly down here, and you can hit them with a ranged ability. If you levitate and then mount jump, slow fall and mount jump, because levitate doesn't work when you're mounted, right? Or if you're Moonkin, you can wild charge flap and head down here and then tag these over the wall. It's still possible. It's the kind of thing where I wouldn't want to include it in the route because I think the success rate on even having a composition that can easily do that is not very high. But if you are capable, or if you want to go in here and practice on M0 or on Heroic or whatever, I would recommend learning how to do that if you can. And that'll be something you can do to save some time in this dungeon, pulling these in with these two, because these two by themselves, horribly inefficient, just no alternative. All right, Plaguefall, done some recalculating of the route here, particularly the with skips route. So one thing, a lot of people don't read the notes here, but the idea, if you can, with this section is crowd control one Plague Borer and bring the other into this pull. Not always going to be possible. But if you can, that's the way that I would attack this area. And then I've got this route now that will get you pride onto 1, 2, 3, 4 bosses. You do pull these 3 slimes, but I think these 3 slimes have actually gotten pretty good to pull. Now that Necrolord players, you just walk near them and you absorb their buffs. So you don't need them to all die on top of each other. Just walk near them and you get the buff for 2 minutes, which includes an AoE damage reduction and an AoE haste aura from these. Another thing about this dungeon is this last room. You can actually walk in, and if you walk in over the side here, make sure you're spamming jump so you don't actually get the nasty dot from being in the puddle. You can actually cut through here and not pull this pack, and then you can pull these 2 first, and then you can go back and pull this pull, and Ichor Bileflesh will have no new pulls to go and jump to and be annoying. So that's the way I generally want to approach this room, particularly on Spiteful, if you can manage it. I'll put an old note actually explaining how to do that in this with skips route. All right, Sanguine Depths, we have learned where the lantern is in this dungeon. It is over this area. It was moved, the one that they moved from over here. So I've retooled the route a little bit. I actually am still pulling this room and this pack, but we're going to back pull them onto that lantern now. And with the new lantern duration, we're going to try and roll this lantern for as long as possible. So we're going to immediately skip then and pull these packs, onto this lantern. If the gargoyle is active over there, then just, chill, obviously. That's very sketchy unless your tank is extremely large, but I don't know where the gargoyle is on any week. I haven't yet figured out the pattern. It's like Waycrest Witches. I just never know where the stupid things are every week. And then we'll go over this way, and the next lantern's over here. So you can actually extend your lantern buff pretty much indefinitely from when you click it over here all the way up to potentially even on pull on this boss. It's a little bit tough to get that reliably, but depending on how fast you're going, that's something you can make happen. The lantern stays open for like 60 seconds now, and the buff lasts 75, which is completely wild. It's a very long time. There's a lot of flexibility with the lanterns. One thing with my route is you'll see where you get to 79%, 79.7 before pulling third boss. That's because I prefer to have the Pride, particularly on Fortified weeks, for the start of the gauntlet than for this boss, and that's what this does. But it does mean, A, you're spawning Pride as soon as you kill like anything in this pack, right? Even if you just kill the 2 dogs, you're spawning your Pride, which means that's something that you really do need to watch out for. In this dungeon. In fact, I'll probably put in a little note that says CC these dogs and get them in at the end of this pull, so you get your Pride after the pack, and then you skip and you have a nice Pride buff for this gauntlet section, which I think is nice. Another thing I've done here is I've moved things around a little bit. That means that you need 1 Dread Bat for my plan. You just grab it and pull it in with this room, either before, after. You can pull it in if you're ever feeling not overwhelmed during the general call trash gauntlet, however you decide to pull this. Just at some point, you're going to need 1 bat from this area. That's with the with skips route, of course. The no skips route continues to just walk through the dungeon in a straight line. Totally valid way to attack this dungeon. You just slightly less optimal Pride timing, but, and you can still actually make pretty good use of the lanterns. You're not going to be able to extend this one if you're pulling all this stuff in all likelihood, but you can still extend this lantern into this one with this path, so do that if you can. Spires of Ascension, not too much going on in here affix-wise this week that I think you need to be too aware of. The one thing that I would note is the way that this pack works. So the way that I have this route structured, this pack you're going to spawn your Pride after killing just the squad leader, gets you to 80%, or any 2 other mobs would get you to 80%. And so the way that I would attack this pack is crowd control all 4 of these, or if you can't, crowd control 2, whatever number you can, kill the squad leader first, and then that spawns your Pride, and then you can fight the Pride maybe with 1 or 2 of these mobs, one or 2 of the less dangerous mobs from this pull, something like a champion and a stealth claw, or a stealth claw and an ether diver or something, whatever you can manage with the Pride, and then you take the other 2 potentially into boss if you can, because you got Pride, you got Lust, you can make it happen. Or the safer, the slower, the steadier way to attack this would be CC all 4 of these guys, kill this squad leader, then kill the Pride, then kill the other 4, and then go into boss. So you don't get Pride on the boss that way for as long, unless you might still get some benefit, but you avoid having to fight stuff with, you avoid splitting this green pack between some of it with the Pride and some of it with the boss, and you're just fighting it all at once by itself. So that's the way this route handles this pull. It's not the prettiest thing that has ever been done in a route, but there's really not a pretty way to deal with either of these packs on either side, so you're always gonna have something gross in Spires with those. Necrotic Wake. So for this dungeon, first of all, obviously Spiteful is pretty tricky to deal with in this area if you're not careful, so make sure that you're always being aware that you're not getting like Spiteful spawning when you don't have any directions to kite in. So just be on the lookout for that. The main thing you want to avoid is the Spiteful spawning, and then you panic running away into this Gatekeeper, for instance. So do your best to have a plan for what you're going to do if the Spiteful Shade spawns and targets you, and be on the far side of the mob relative to the Gatekeepers or whatever patrol is nearby that you don't want to pull, right? Be on this side, right? When you start fighting this pack, you either get to this side or fight it on this side. Don't be like right here, because if you're right here and the Spiteful Shade spawns, your natural direction to run is going to be this way. And that's how you get into the Gatekeeper. That's bad, so don't do that. The other thing I've done with this route, so I've moved things around a little bit in the skips route, that now we are actually going to do this mini boss pack, and we're going to do it with Pride. This is something nice to use our Pride cooldown on. So we got our 40% Pride, take it into this pack, kill that, head over here, do this stuff. This can be 2 pulls. In fact, this probably should be 2 pulls. I'll split this bad boy up into 2 separate pulls. And then we're skipping on over here, doing this pull. That's going to get us our 60% pride, which we're then taking onto the boss. And then we U-turn, grab this pack, and then we head up with the angels. And that sets us up for prides onto 3 good targets here, right? We got pride onto Blightbone, we got pride onto Narzuda, got a pride onto a Marth. I do have to do some finesse movement in this area, but that's what the Width Skip routes are for. If you don't care too much about the pride timing and you just don't want to have to try and make any of that work, you just go with the no skips route. Of course, I usually say this at the start of the show, but I realized I forgot to do that this time. These routes are all available on Raider.io. They'll be in the description below as well, the link to them, so you can grab them there. And yeah, I mean, this is just a much more straightforward, straight line through the dungeon type approach to the whole thing. And then finally, Theater of Pain. This is a dungeon where I got a couple questions about exactly why the route is structured like it is. And the idea with the skips route in this dungeon is we want pride onto all 3 bosses in the downstairs area, which is difficult to make happen without backtracking, but this is one way to do it. And so the way to do it is you finish, of course, the upstairs boss section, you head down, and we go over to the Kultharok Wing first. You do this by, you go right, and then you come onto this area, and you're going to grab these 2 Bone Magi in addition to this pack. Usually the way you're going to want to do this is Portal Guardian dies, and then you're safe to add in the Bone Magus stuff. And then we head left, right? We have these 2, and we get these, and that gets us our 40% pride. So pride onto Kultharok. And then we come over and we do this. This thing is the thing that looks weird. We fight this guy all by itself. This is just, whoever finishes Kultharok off first, whoever's got the most movement speed, can go and grab this, tag it, and you can basically be fighting it while moving to a certain extent. But it is a little bit of an annoying, slow thing. The nice thing is it doesn't have too much health. You just nuke this thing down real quick, and then you skip through here, fight these guys, obviously skip one of these things, get down here, head across the bridge, and this gets us our pride onto Gorechop. And then we head on back upstairs, and we kill this stuff, and then we go over to the Zav wing, and we get prides onto this 5-pack and onto Zav. So it's great pride timings. Pride onto 4 of our 5 prides are onto really high priority targets. One of them is onto, it's onto this pull, which is not bad either. So really 5 good prides with this path. The only downside is the fighting this thing all by itself stuff, which I don't think is that bad, but that's what it is. That's what the Theater of Pain with skips route is trying to make happen. So there's the theory behind it, if you're interested. In terms of affixes in this dungeon, a couple tricky Grievous bosses to worry about, but with Fortified active, you can usually get through them okay. So it's annoying that we don't have Pride for Modretha, but it's not particularly easy to set that up without doing some really weird stuff. So just go in there with Lust and everything, save your Lust for that phase 2, that sub 50% phase, unless your Lust will just kill her from full and you're doing a really low level key. And then, just make sure that you're ready for the way that I see a lot of groups die to this, obviously besides just straight up failing of a lot of the mechanics, which are pretty tough, is the healer falling behind from that burst of damage that comes out when she phases to 50%. So potentially consider using a defensive on that, having the Bloodlust there often is more than enough for the healer to catch up as well. But worst case, you can, the thing is, on most weeks, you can usually limp over the finish line with 3 people alive. With Grievous, that's a little bit less true, especially if one of the people who's died is your healer. So you really do want to make sure that you're not wiping particularly to that push. I think that's the main culprit in Modretha-related wipes, besides getting hit by, any of the swirlies or the charging riders or whatever. Okay, that's Theater of Pain. Those are the dungeons. Hope this video helped. Thanks to everybody who's sent in strategies, plans, ways to update the routes. Very much appreciated. Let me know what you think of the changes to... It's mostly the with skips routes that have been changed. Most of the no skips routes are pretty much the same because skips aren't allowed. There's not too much room for adjusting them, but do let me know if there's something that you find to be particularly good or bad. In general, if they're, with all the routes, there's going to be a lot of groups that will find any given route either too aggressive, right? It's doing too many complicated things, too many skips that, you can't reliably execute, too many big pulls. And then for that same route, there's also going to be a lot of groups that find it to be, too slow, right? You're doing too much weird and slow pulls that don't really make much sense, that are just all by themselves, right? So in general, I can't fix that, right? I can't make it so that there's not going to be those two groups always. I can just change where exactly on the slider the route is. But sometimes there are things I can change that just make it better for everybody, or make it better for some people at no expense for other people. So try and think through if what you've got is a suggestion that accomplishes that. And if so, send it my way. It would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, that's what's going on. That's what's going on in Mythic Plus this week. Hope you enjoy the Valor farming. One thing that didn't really mention, but that is kind of weird and true about Valor, is that +2s are just as good as +15s for earning the Valor points. You should, if you can, if there's a specific item that you're upgrading with Valor, though, because it is a limited resource, if you are going to run into that Valor cap being an issue, or even if you're not and you just want to not have to farm as much Valor, get your item from a higher level key and then farm the rest of the Valor you need from low level keys, right? So that's kind of the sequencing that makes more sense, right? Is you don't know how many runs of the other side, for instance, you're going to need to get your trinket, right? So run them at +15 until you get your 210 trinket, and then do as many +2s of whatever dungeon you need to get all the Valor points you need to upgrade it all the way, right? Because if you do it in the other order, you're not going to know how many of those to do at the end, right? How many of the +15s you need to do at the end. Okay, that's it. That's this week in Mythic Plus. Hope you like the video. Check out my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/Ratnos, where I stream Raid twice per week. And hopefully some more stuff now that MDI season's over and I got a little bit more free time. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.